Welcome back to Haunted Horizons, where the shadows whisper and the darkness hides forgotten horrors. Tonight, we take you deep into a place lost to time, a village hidden in the fog, abandoned for centuries. But what if it was never truly empty? This is the terrifying tale of the Cursed Village. A traveler ignores the warnings and enters a place where spirits linger, shadows move on their own, and a red door holds a secret too horrifying to comprehend. Some villages are forgotten for a reason, and some souls never escape. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and prepare for a chilling experience. Chapter 1: The Forgotten Path. It was supposed to be a simple trip. I had always been drawn to remote locations, places untouched by time. When I heard about an abandoned village deep within the woods, I knew I had to see it for myself. The locals in the nearby town warned me against going, speaking in hushed whispers about the village that should not be disturbed. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. With only a backpack and a flashlight, I ventured down the overgrown path that led into the dense forest. The trees loomed overhead, their gnarled branches twisting like skeletal fingers. As I walked, a dense fog rolled in, swallowing the trail behind me. There was no turning back now. Chapter 2: The Village That Should Not Exist. After what felt like hours, I emerged from the trees and found myself standing before the village. The houses were ancient, their wooden structures rotting, windows shattered, doors creaking as if whispering warnings. The silence was unnerving. As I stepped onto the cobblestone path, I felt an inexplicable chill run through my bones. It was summer, yet the air was unnaturally cold. I glanced around, expecting to see movement in the shadows. Then I saw them. Faint figures standing in the distance, their shapes flickering like dying flames. They did not move, nor did they approach. They only watched. Chapter 3: The House with the Red Door. A strange pull guided me to one particular house. Unlike the others, this one had a red door, its paint fresh and untouched by time. I reached out, hesitating before pressing my hand against the wood. The door swung open on its own. Inside, the air was thick with dust, yet the furniture was untouched, as if someone had been living there moments before my arrival. A single candle flickered on the table. My pulse quickened as I noticed something carved into the walls. "Leave before nightfall." I turned back toward the door, but it slammed shut. Then, the whispering began. Chapter 4: The Whispering Voices. The whispers were everywhere. They echoed from the walls, the ceiling, even from the floor beneath me. They spoke in a language I could not understand, yet their intent was clear. I was not welcome. I fumbled for my flashlight, its beam cutting through the dimly lit room. Shadows stretched unnaturally, twisting and contorting as if alive. Then, from the corner of my eye, I saw movement. A figure stood in the doorway to another room. It was a woman, her long dark hair covering her face. Her body was unnaturally still, yet the air around her seemed to shift and ripple, as if reality itself was struggling to contain her presence. Then, she moved. Chapter 5: The Haunting Begins. I stumbled backward as the woman crawled toward me, her limbs bent at unnatural angles, her fingers scratching against the wooden floor. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of voices merging into one, filling my mind with a suffocating presence. I turned and ran, slamming my body against the door. It would not budge. A cold hand touched my shoulder. I screamed, twisting away, but when I turned around, she was gone. The whispers stopped. The house was silent once more. The only sound was my ragged breathing. But something had changed. The candle on the table had melted completely. Hours had passed in what felt like minutes. Then I heard it, the distant chime of a bell. It rang 7 times. Night had fallen. Chapter 6. The Spirits of the Village. I bolted out of the house, desperate to leave the village. But the moment I stepped outside, I realized the terrible truth. The figures that had once stood in the distance were now closer. Their hollow eyes followed me, their mouths moving soundlessly. One of them reached out, a force like ice wrapped around my wrist, and in that moment, a vision filled my mind. I saw the village as it once was, lively, filled with laughter and warmth. Then a plague came. The villagers begged for help, but none came. In their despair, they turned to something else. A figure, cloaked in darkness, stood in the center of the village. It whispered promises of salvation. But the cost was their souls. The villagers vanished, trapped between worlds, forever bound to the cursed land. And now, so was I. Chapter 7. The Escape That Wasn't. I fought against the invisible force holding me, tearing my arm free. I ran blindly through the village, the fog growing thicker, the streets twisting unnaturally. No matter which path I took, I always ended up back at the red-doored house. A figure stood in front of it now, not the woman from before, something worse. Its face was featureless, its body shifting like smoke. It lifted an arm, pointing toward me. My body froze. Then, it spoke in a voice that was not a voice at all. You belong to us now. Chapter 8. The Final Choice. My mind was slipping. The air felt heavier, reality warping around me. The village was swallowing me whole. Then, through the fog, I saw it. A small wooden talisman lying on the ground. It was marked with strange runes, glowing faintly. Somehow, I knew what I had to do. I grabbed the talisman and spoke the name of the village, a name I did not know, yet it flowed from my lips like a forgotten prayer. The figures screamed. The world shattered. Epilogue. Did I ever leave? I woke up outside the forest, my body covered in dirt and scratches. The sun was rising, painting the sky in hues of red and gold. The village was gone. Had it all been real? Or had I merely been lost in the woods, trapped in a nightmare of my own making? As I walked back toward the town, something in my pocket shifted. I reached inside and pulled out a small wooden talisman, the same one from the village. And as the wind whispered through the trees, I heard a familiar voice. You belong to us now.